we really spend a significant amount of time just talking about a person's individual experiences with money. How do they feel? How do they feel about money? What role does money play in their life? Whether it was today, whether it was in the past, we want to start to kind of understand the worldview that's been established around this tool that on its own has no meaning or energy attached to it except for what we actually place upon it.
Welcome to Tried and True with a Dash of Woo, where we're all about mixing tried and true strategies that actually work with the magic of manifestation and the science of programming your unconscious mind so that you walk away feeling integrated, inspired, and aligned. I'm Renee Bowen, certified life and business coach, professional photographer, middle-aged wife, and mom to now 3 grown kids. I've built 2 multiple 6-figure businesses with 0 business training by digging in, learning the methods, and now I'm here to pass them all on to you. From photography and business strategies to energy healing, human design, and the basics of manifestation, we cover it all here. I'm here to help you embrace your multi-passionate brains and lean into the fastest and most efficient ways to reach your goals, whatever they may be. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, or maybe you're just here for the woo-woo, let's dive in and explore all the exciting ways to take your life, business, and self-improvement to the next level. Thanks for joining me, and get ready to be inspired. Hey friends, thanks so much for joining me again for another episode of Tried and True with a Dash of Woo. I have an incredible guest for you today. She is not just a powerhouse when it comes to business and finance and just all things money. She leads with her heart. She is literally the embodiment of love and nurturing. And I mean, just her energy. You're going to see what I mean. Her name is Christine Sarno. Christine Joyluck Sarno is what she goes by, her handles. I'm going to link to all of that in the show notes for you. She is a financial mentor and coach, and she has incredible resources, especially for women who are, let's just say, not used to having to dive into their finances or understand their finances or even want to know about their finances. And she really breaks down like not only why that's important, but how she does it and how she starts with a lot of the way that we think about money and our mindset and our beliefs and our blocks. Because if we don't get that stuff right, she can give you all the strategies in the world and it's not going to work. And so you can imagine that that is right in alignment with what I believe in general. And so no matter where you are on your financial journey, on your wealth journey, this is a very important and impactful conversation that I know you're going to get a lot out of. So let's dive in. So hello, Christine. I am so excited to have you here on the podcast with us today because you truly are like just such a light whenever you pop up on my feed, and I know that mostly what you talk about and we're going to talk about today is financial stuff, but just in general, your energy and your vibe, just like it just resonates. So thank you so much for being here today, first of all.
Oh, Renee, thank you. Thank you for that. Please know the feeling is mutual, and I'm so grateful and honored, to be a guest on your podcast and excited for today's conversation.
So excited because it is so necessary, I think. So you describe yourself a lot as this financial wingwoman, which I love, like really, really awesome because it really truly does describe you, but because I sort of know you. So how would you describe that, like that role and what that sort of embodies and means to you for the women that you serve? What does that really mean?
Oh, I mean, the great question. When I say that I'm a person or a woman's financial wing woman, I want you to think about a woman that's got your back, right? That's there to lift you and support you and guide you. Kind of like your ride or die. We all have those best friends, right? Or women in our lives. I mean, they could be, mom, a sibling, whatever it may be, but someone who's got you and has your best interests always top of mind. So I kind of that's the energy I like to embody when I'm working with my clients and when I'm working with women in terms of what's going on in their financial world.
I love it. And I find that, especially because I work with a lot of women, female entrepreneurs, obviously, and mostly creatives. And so I don't know if you see this, you probably do. But I see a lot of us creative women, especially, feeling like, and I'm going to include myself in this, by the way, really feeling on the outside of some of this conversation. And that's why I think that what you're doing is so important because, to really truly embody what we're doing and to kind of come into our own, we do have to understand it and really own our financial, not just making our money, but what we do with that and how our money works for us eventually. And that is like true empowerment. What initially though led you to focus on like this financial advising, Wingwoman, especially working with women specifically? What sort of like drew you to this and made you feel like, okay, this is my thing?
Renee, I love how you kind of frame this, especially for your community. And if I may, 100%, it's important to really understand how to earn money and then also what to do with it, right? To plan for the future, to create financial well-being for themselves. And if I may, I'd love to add a third element to that. And it's important, no matter what industry you work in, whether you're a business owner, you're W-2, right? You work for a company. It's also something that we need to focus on, and that is our relationship with money, our connection with money. So I think these are kind of like these three areas that I feel are really important for women to lean into, no matter what you do professionally. In terms of just what really inspired me to pivot into this space, this is my own personal story. I am actually the daughter of a mother who is an immigrant from a foreign country. My mom was born and raised in rural Taiwan, and she was actually, what she experienced growing up was really extreme poverty. Like my mom didn't have a real meal until she was probably 5 or 6 years old. Her father passed away when she was 3. And my mom pretty much was raised by older siblings while her mother took an hour bus ride into another town to make just very meager wages to just try to keep it together. So she really grinded in her life. She was an excellent student. She was able to experience government subsidized education. But if you can think about it, even through her formative years, like the first time that she didn't have to wear secondhand clothes was when she was in high school. And then she had to make do with a government supplied pencil and notebook, one for the year. So if you can think about mom's experience and kind of the scarcity mindset that she had growing up, I think she was looking to try to create a better life for herself when she met my father. He was ex-military, which went from the Air Force, right, moved into kind of the private sector and took his engineering background and went into the semiconductor industry. He met my mom in Taiwan, and it's a beautiful love story. They met at an officers club. He saw her dancing across the floor with some friends, and he was so enamored, right? He asked her to dance, and that was it. They fell in love. They ended up getting married. But, even every beautiful story kind of has its dark shadow, if you will, because it was a very troubled marriage. My father had addiction issues, specifically with alcohol. He was an alcoholic. And my mom also endured domestic abuse and violence in that marriage. And so I watched this growing up. And for me, it was, I can look back now and say, wow, how pivotal an experience it was for me to watch this and the dynamic of this relationship between my parents. And immediately I attached the meaning to money of all negative emotions. So trauma, abuse, power struggle, betrayal, right? All of these things. And so the way it actually molded and shaped me growing up was that, Christine, if you want to have a different life, you need to own your life and be able to choose. And so financial independence and freedom was fundamentally a part of that. And that's how that impacted me just in my own formative years. And as, I've coming into adulthood, whether it was on the corporate side of my life, And then when I decided to move into the financial services space, this was back in 2017, I realized that there are so many women that are still grappling with the challenges of not having their own financial independence and control over their lives because of lack of financial education or lack of financial resources. And it was just so imperative to me that I just wanted to make a change, right, in this space for other women.
I love that you shared that story too. I think that a lot of people can absolutely identify with that, whether they had that, that exact same, obviously won't have that exact same experience, but I feel as though, especially women, and I myself, it's not like I grew up with money or anything like that, and we definitely do just suck that all in, right? Like we suck in all of that good stuff and bad stuff into our unconscious because our unconscious doesn't understand what is real and what is not. And so, especially before the age of 7, we're just like taking in all of these stories. And then we have to spend like the rest of our life trying to decipher, is that really my story? Or is it someone else's story that I just thought was mine? Or, just sucked in the information, tried to keep myself safe, tried to, not fall into fight or flight. And so I feel like the awareness of that is so important for people to hear, that most of the things that happen to us, especially in those formative years, like before the age of 7, because we know developmentally that's what our unconscious mind is doing. It's forming in that phase. And we're also, little woo-woo side, we're in a theta brain state. Our brain waves are in theta. And so it's all creativity. And that's why we're able to come up with imagination and stories and all of these things. But that's also why these things can get in there and feel so very real and then stick with us for life. And so the fact that, you had that awareness and then you were able to like put that into practice, not only in your own life, but also then take it out into the world and serve other women in this capacity, I think is phenomenal, because I feel like just that simple awareness for people, that aha of, oh, wait a second, this isn't really my story. This is actually something else that's just kind of in my, lineage. And I don't have to make those same decisions. So you're really good at helping women identify like what's really preventing them from creating wealth. And which I think is really it's a distinction, not just, okay, I want you to be, good with your money and understand your money, but also creating wealth, which I think is fire. And so what are some of the barriers that you've seen, like that you've noticed too, with women, and how do you help these clients of yours overcome those barriers?
Well, for starters, and unlike what most people experience when they start working with somebody in the traditional financial advisory space, right? We really spend a significant amount of time just talking about a person's individual experiences with money. How do they feel about money? What role does money play in their life? Whether it was today, whether it was in the past. We want to start to kind of understand the worldview that's been established around this tool that on its own has no meaning or energy attached to it except for what we actually place upon it. And I do like to spend a fair amount of time in the very beginning, before we even start talking strategies and tactics, whether we're talking about, investing strategies, saving strategies, debt reduction strategies, all that stuff. The pragmatic steps actually come after we start really identifying what does the role of this thing, this piece of paper in our life really play. And we need to kind of start working through some of this stuff because there's a lot of limiting beliefs. There's a lot of fears, right? That actually can start to show up in these initial conversations that we actually want to focus on and address, because Renee, I can put the best laid plan in front of you. And in some cases, even crunch the numbers and show you what the potential outcome could be. But unless you've got the fire and the desire to choose that for yourself, and you can overcome maybe a past limiting belief that's been holding you back. Like it's basically just, it's just tactics and numbers on paper.
Oh, that's so good. And that is why I wanted to have this conversation with you, because there are so many conversations about money and, like you said, strategies and, all of these different things. And I'm glad we're having more conversations, especially as women, about this. But if you don't start with that stuff, it's going to be really difficult to actually, like you said, implement anything. It's the belief, right? We got to get past so many of these beliefs and these, our blocks. Some people call them money blocks. I mean, there's a lot of different words for what they are, and people can identify with many different ways. But when it comes down to it, it either feels safe or unsafe to you. And if money feels unsafe and you've put so much energy, like charged energy on it, from either whether it's from someone else or your own stuff, it's going to be really difficult to begin making those changes necessary. And so what you do and what you're helping women do in this phase of it, especially in that beginning, is starting to look at it as a neutral thing. And you get to decide what it is for you, which I think it's key. It's key. So with that in mind, what do you see like in that process happen, right? Like, so I know that you've worked with a lot of different people, women over the years. Was there like a particular time or maybe a few where you have like really seen firsthand how big that shift can be for people and like the difference it makes in their actual wealth management?
Whether you call it like a breakthrough, like a breakthrough moment, an aha moment, whatever, there is a shift in somebody's energy when you can see them actually start to connect the dots in terms of how maybe past decisions or behaviors around money have been impacted by, let's say, for example, for me, money was scary. And even though I was focused on earning it to create independence for myself, the idea of potentially losing it in any way, shape, or form, and this is in my 20s and 30s, sent me into a state of panic. And so what I had to do was unlearn a lot of that and start to create a different relationship with money. So with these aha moments, I can share with you that with some clients, I've had clients say, "Oh my gosh, Christine, oh my gosh, it all makes sense." Or break down in tears and say, I've been carrying this stress and this fear or this kind of feeling like I'm stupid because, I should have known how to manage my money better, shame, overwhelm. I've been carrying it. And it's a relief to finally say to somebody, this is how I've been feeling. So like that raw honesty, I think that to me is everything, Renee, because we've just had a magical moment there, right? In this place of vulnerability and self-realization and healing, if I may, that we can actually now start to create a new story.
Yeah, absolutely. I see so much of this in my audience, especially in my groups, in my coaching. Even when women come to me for business coaching, yeah, we're definitely going to look at strategy and numbers, but we're going to start with some belief, and we're also going to start with what you believe and figure out what that really is. But I see so many women. I mean, like, this is so common. I hear this a lot. Well, I'm just very overwhelmed by, like, it could even just be, and we're not even talking about necessarily if they have like a portfolio. And I do want to get into some tips for people in a second about like how they can start that process, because I think that's important. But so many women have a hard time even just looking at their bank account, right? Just opening up their bank account, looking at it, especially in respect to business, what's really in that business account, and are they paying themselves, and how are they paying themselves? And they feel so completely removed from it, disconnected, because they never were, like I said, and taught and empowered to feel like it could be something that they're good at. Or maybe something happened in their past where a teacher or someone just told you, or you're just not good at that. So it sticks in there and you just kind of carry it with you. And I see this happen a lot. And that's one of the main, I think, traps that we get into is it's too overwhelming, especially with the creative brain. I'm not good at it. It's not something that comes to me naturally. So I'm just going to just push it away. Like maybe just kind of ignore it. And then they can't understand why they just can't seem to, make more money, create more wealth. What do you suggest, especially for women in that position who feel overwhelmed or afraid in that respect? Like what's like one or two little steps that they can even just take now to even start them to go down that path?
I think, the first step, look, and if I may, I'd like to preface this response with something that I firmly believe. We don't need to be math wizards.
Thank God.
At all. We don't necessarily need to be that good at math to understand how to effectively manage our money. So that's number one. And I say this to my clients all the time. And financially empowered women, they're not gifted. They get educated on money and then they exercise their knowledge. Okay? So we've got to choose to learn. So although it may be overwhelming, right? We've got to come into this process choosing what we want. If we want to have a healthy financial life, financial well-being, and to create wealth, we got to choose that. And as much as, I am a firm believer in the law of attraction, right? Universal law. If I sit on the couch and go, I sure hope that the universe gifts me with some wealth today, but I won't look at my bank accounts. And I won't sit there and actually start to kind of navigate the numbers. I mean, so this is the Christine Joylux Sarno, Chinese tiger mom, a little bit of tough love here because I love hard. Okay. So that's for starters. But look, when we're thinking about the initial steps of our money journey, our financial journey, number one is we've got to know our numbers. We've got to get a better understanding of our numbers. So if it's a spreadsheet on Excel or Google Docs, if it is a online app that is much more intuitive and just creative friendly, a money app. I mean, there's so many resources and tools out there, but essentially the first step is to understand what we're spending on a monthly basis versus what's coming in. Okay, there's two fundamental pieces of a sound financial plan, right? We need to understand what our cash flow is. And that's basically in layman's terms, how much money is coming in versus how much money is going out. And then we kind of need to understand what our balance sheet is, right? So what assets do we have? It could be investments. It could be a savings account. It could be, we own real estate, whatever it may be, versus our liabilities. What do we owe? And these are two areas just at the very beginning that we just have to choose to have more clarity on, because this is the launch pad from where we start to make certain decisions about how to move forward. So again, we've got to figure out what's the right tools for us, and everybody kind of aligns with different things. Like I'm a spreadsheet person through and through, but again, there's great money apps out there or online resources, whatever it may be. Or, if you like pen to paper and it's just a beautiful design in this budget notebook and you like to just jot down your numbers and that's how you want to do it, find your tool. And then we've got to basically apply ourselves and commit to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the tough love comment too, because I do think that is really important. I'm all for, like you said, finding what works for you, finding what works for your brain. We all learn differently. We're all, we're going to all process information in a different way. And what works for one person just may or may not work for another. I say that a lot in a lot of my content, just in general, because I think people have this preconceived notion about a lot of different things, whether it's coaching or working with an advisor or whatever, that they feel like, oh, well, that their agenda is going to have to be how I do it. And I can't commit to that because my brain doesn't work like that. And so I'd love for anyone who's listening to really soak that in, that when you do work with someone, and by the way, that is a really great idea, because if you aren't, naturally gifted at this, if you don't have a natural desire to look at those numbers every day, if it scares you, if it overwhelms you, if you feel like disconnected, that's a sign right there that you probably need someone else to help you do this. And that's the whole point. And asking for help, take the shame out of it. Everybody needs help. And when you do work with someone like Christine, who is going to take all that into consideration, that's really what I kind of want people to hear, is that, we don't know what we don't know. And I know it's a big concept and it feels really scary, and it can feel really like a lot of shame, tied into that as well. Like, cause I do hear that from a lot of photographers, especially, who by all intents and purposes, like, come to me and, are making money, but they have no idea. Like, if I straight up ask them, like, okay, how much did you make last year? And they'll tell me, well, I just brought in a little under 200,000. Okay. So what does that mean? Like, how many sessions did you do? What is your average? What are your liabilities? What are these expensive? They have no idea, like no idea. And they immediately go to, I know I suck. I should know this. And I'm like, we're not going to shame you.
Yeah.
The questions are there to just help us inform. They're not there to make you feel like you should be doing anything. Obviously, you are trying to get help. And I know you probably see that a lot too. So don't you agree? Like, that's probably the first thing.
Asking for help is so important, Renee. It really is. And my heart also goes out to so many people, especially women, that may have tried asking for help, as in early adulthood, where they asked maybe somebody, a family member, that made them feel diminished or less than because they even asked the question. Or, to your point, may have started working with a financial expert that just they felt intimidated by, or, didn't know how to answer the questions. And then, were kind of, again, dismissed or just made to kind of feel not really smart. And this happens, which really makes me very angry, because at the end of the day, it takes a lot of courage and self-love to ask for help. So I really want to remind your community, the fact that you are asking for help, that's a big step, and you should be proud of yourself. And then to be able, you are entitled to and deserving of a safe, supportive environment where somebody's actually going to be willing to guide you and teach you and hold your hand along this process. So I do want your community to know that they deserve that, and that kind of help does exist. And sometimes they kind of have to weed through the crap of what's happened in the past, right? And not give up on themselves, right? Because this is so important. There's such a, I think about this too, for those of us that learned to ride a bike when we were little kids, well, before we got on that bike with training wheels, we were walking. We were trying to figure out how to walk. And before that, we were crawling. But we all started at that very first point, and we took steps to continue to evolve in the process. So you got to gift yourself the ability to start wherever you are and love yourself enough to keep going.
Okay, photographers, this message is for you. There's a lot of education in our industry, as I'm sure you know, but I do something a little differently with my group coaching program that I call Elevate. And I want to talk to you about it for a second, because we are re-enrolling for this next round soon. It goes from July through December of this year. It's a 6-month program. And when I tell you there's really nothing else like it, here's what I mean. Yes, we do have Zoom calls every month, and there's a portal of a lot of information for you online that we add to as well as our time together progresses. But what makes this really unique is, first of all, I am certified in life coaching. So we really do take into account the entire person that you are, and not just the photographer that you are. So we talk about mindset, we talk about abundance, we talk about manifestation, and then we also absolutely talk about strategy and money and profit. And making sure that you are running your business as efficiently as possible. So you get access to me via Voxer, which is a voice texting app, pretty much 24/7. I don't know any other photography educator out there who is this accessible to their coaching students. It's kind of unheard of. But here's the thing. I created this program and all my programs for the photographer that I once was, for that version of myself who really struggled and needed this so much, but couldn't find it. It didn't exist. And it still kind of doesn't. So I created this and everything that I do for her and for you. So if you're looking for not just community and accountability, but also serious education and ongoing support and mindset from someone who's actually certified and understands how to pull out of you what you can't do on your own, then you need to go ahead and check out Elevate. Now, I don't know if I'm going to run this program ever again. I just have to be honest with you. I have done it now for the last 3.5 years, and I love it. But there could be some other things on my horizon, so I can't promise you that I will run it, especially in the same way that I'm running it now, ever again. So if you've been on the fence and you need some coaching and you can't afford to jump into my one-on-one, this is for you. So you'll need to go ahead and hit the link in the show notes. But I look forward to hearing from you and working with you to get you to build the most profitable and most fulfilling business that you possibly can.
So I do feel that that's very passionate about that. But yeah, asking for help is absolutely something to be proud of and to continue to lean into that. So
absolutely. And I love that one of the things that you do too to support that and really help that grow is you have a community. That you've created. You have a free community on Facebook, but then you also do this really cool thing. I think you call it office hours or something. Is that right?
Yeah. So it's called Financial Peace of Mind Coffee Chat. Yeah.
So tell me what that looks like, because when I saw you post that, I was like, okay, that is really interesting to me. It feels like it would be a lot more intimate and a little bit safer, for those of us who might feel a little intimidated going into a Facebook group. Yeah. What does that look like?
So thank you for allowing me to share. So I basically started it this year in partnership with a tech platform called All Takes. And this is kind of a head nod and me paying homage to my previous, tech background when I worked in corporate. But what I love about All Takes is that they've created an online platform. Think of it as, it's just a more creative, loving, just aesthetically pleasing, softer approach to Zoom, if you will. No disrespect to Zoom, but essentially, so for me as a coach, I can actually now host what I call virtual meets, right, on this platform. And in and of itself, the way this platform really helps me and the way I want to be able to help others is that it is a safe, confidential, non-judgmental space where you can interact with me live on a weekly basis. You come on to what I call my Zen Den virtual office hours, if you will, right? Once a week. If it meets with your schedule, you can pop in for a couple minutes. You can stay for the full hour. I'll help to kind of lead the conversation. Questions can be asked. Financial coaching can happen there. But women come and just say, they're expressing their frustrations, their fears. So they're leaning not only on me as the coach, but other women in the supportive community that can make that hour just to really feel like they're not alone and community is there to help. And, these sessions are not recorded. They're not published. They're not posted. So everything that's discussed in these sessions is 100% confidential and safe. And I really believe that women are looking for that space to be able to express themselves in that way and ask questions.
Oh, that's awesome. We'll definitely link to all of this in the show notes for people who are interested in finding out more, because I think that is really needed so much. And I think that is going to make a huge difference for a lot of people. So we'll definitely expand on that in the show notes and everything like that.
Thank you.
And I feel like that is such a great example of who you are as a person, like that I know you guys have probably got a sense already of how, I don't want to use the word motherly, but you have this this very warm, caregiving, caretaking vibe, right? And that's just kind of who you are. It emanates from you. It's impossible not to feel it when you're around Christine. So I feel like that is just like a natural extension of you, just like, okay, come into this space. I got you. It's all good. No shame, no blame here. It's all good. So I love that is one of the ways that you're expressing that why and that purpose that I know that you live. And I do think that also leads me into, because I always love to ask my guests. So I love to ask my guests a little bit about the woo, right? Because my podcast is a mix of tried and true strategies with some woo. And I feel like we kind of touched on that a little bit, but even expanding that a little bit further, like, what are the things that you do as a mom yourself also? Like, you're a busy mom. You've got teenagers, older teens. Like, I think your son just went to college even. Is that right?
Yeah, Ryan is a freshman now. I know. It's, oh my goodness. And then my daughter Lily will be graduating high school this year. So yeah. I mean,
it's a lot. It's big, right? It's big shifts, right? So, you've got all this other stuff going on too. Like, obviously, like, this isn't, your only thing that you do. It's a big part of your life, but you've got other stuff going on. How do you incorporate the woo or that self-care or whatever that looks like to you, in your own life so that you are the best version of yourself in all of these different spaces?
I love this question, Renee, because I am an ongoing student, right, of basically, if you want to call it self-help, introspection, trauma healing, all of this. But I can share with you like some of my daily practices. I mean, I'm an early morning riser. The house is quiet in the morning. I have my morning ritual. I light a candle, and I set aside from what I call, it's like, this is very important time. It's my meditation time. And generally there's about a half an hour of uninterrupted time, right, where I can go inward. I journal. A lot of things come up during this time for me, so I always keep a journal next to me and I just jot down little notes after my meditation. But it helps me to kind of stay grounded and at peace, because I think when we have very busy lives, right, whether it's, your family, career, community, all sorts of things that you're involved in, it's very easy to kind of get caught up in the chaos of the daily. And we start kind of making a lot of decisions from that place of fight or flight, right? And it's very different, the inspiration, the motivation, how energizing it can be when you actually incorporate some of these great practices. I try to be in nature as much as possible. Try to get in hikes during the week and on weekends. We live in Southern California. It's spring now. It's beautiful. Like, there's no excuse for me not to, right, be in nature. Ground. If you are having an absolutely stressful moment, take your shoes off, go outside, right? Stand on the grass, and breathe. Deep breathing. So these are kind of daily practices that just, it's like, instead of like pouring myself another cup of coffee to keep going, which is what I used to pour like 10 of them back in my corporate days, right? Now I have not so bueno on the health, but I've incorporated more of these mindful self-care strategies, right? To help me be more along the lines of a very centered place and to allow my brain to kind of turn the amygdala off a little bit, let the prefrontal cortex kind of kick in and be able to make more of these strategic, right, decisions. When we do that, we actually make much better financial decisions in those moments too.
Absolutely.
So that's the daily stuff. And then, I mean, to be completely honest, Renee, I do spend a significant amount of time and money in my own personal healing and growth. I do a lot of shadow work, do a lot of stuff to heal past traumas as a child. And that's an ongoing thing because, it's as life continues to evolve, things will sometimes surface or resurface, right? But having the tools, the awareness, as you shared earlier in our conversation, to have the ability to look at it from a very detached state and then work through it, right? To get to a much more whole and beautiful place. That's something that is a priority for me. So growth, personal growth, and in that way is very important.
Yeah, I can tell. And I mean, that makes such a huge difference, that regulation. Like when we get to that space of regulation, you're so right. We are able to access, more of our critical thinking, more of the strategy, whatever you want to call it. We're able to make better decisions, be better parents, be better partners, be better business owners when we feel regulated, when we feel more in alignment with who we're really meant to be. And I love that you mentioned meditation, because I feel like, I know it gets thrown around a lot, and a lot of people, just especially creatives, have this initial go-to of like, well, I can't meditate because, my brain just goes too fast. And I get it. I understand, but I'm going to call bullshit on that. I'm sorry. It's not true. You absolutely can if it's a priority, right? You're going to make it a priority. It will be. And if otherwise, it'll be an excuse. And you can start small. You don't need to like sit and listen to an hour-long meditation or become the Buddha overnight. Like, you can take little small steps. I'm a really big proponent of hypnosis and listening to hypnosis tracks, because I feel like that is a really almost like easy entry for a lot of people too, who feel like maybe meditation might be a little too hard. Hypnosis sort of like takes you off the hook a little bit, because you don't have to really pay attention. You can just kind of like put earbuds in as you're falling asleep kind of thing. And your unconscious is just going to get the info, right? And it's going to get the suggestions. And so I feel like, okay, if you can't jump right into meditation or anything like that, start small, start where you can. But it really it makes a very big impact on everything. And it's such a great way to start the day, I think. Even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it needs to be for you, make it a priority, because it really does set you up for the rest of your day. Now, jumping into a completely different sort of topic really quick before we start to wrap up, because I don't want to keep you here all day. I do want to go into, a couple of little strategy tips, right? So people can walk away with like, maybe that's a cool idea. Let's say someone comes into a decent amount of money. Let's say it's 10, 20 grand, right? Whether it be from a really big sale or maybe somewhat an inheritance or something, right? Like they come into a sum of money they aren't necessarily planning for, and they already, obviously they have a job. So they're, it's not like they have to take that money and live on it. What would be a good option, an idea for them to either like, and this person, by the way, has never invested. That whole thing scares the crap out of them. They don't understand it. What would be the first thing you would tell them with that?
So Renee, my answer to that question, I know you may not love this, but it depends. It really does depend. So I have to put, my financial advisor hat on, and I would say, this is where it can get dangerous, because there's no one size fits all, and there's no like top great tips. Everyone's current financial situation is different. And so it really kind of depends on a whole host of different factors, right? What I would say is, don't necessarily make any rash decisions with that money, right? I would park that money in a relatively stable type of an account to start, like a high yield savings account. Let it just earn some interest, right, before you make any decisions. But I think it's really important, whether you speak with a financial expert, which I would actually recommend for starters, or you talk to people and just start to get some ideas, right, is to get a better understanding of what your current financial situation looks like, get a better understanding of what your goals are in life, And when I mean goals, I mean, are you looking to buy a house? Are you potentially, ready to start saving for retirement? Do you have some debt that you need to pay down, like student loan debt, whatever it may be, right? And so you want to get a better understanding of kind of what these goals are, the timeline for these goals, right? And this is when you can actually start to have a better idea of where best to deploy that $10,000 or $20,000, right? But I would never say just make a decision.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah, I would never say just make a decision because you heard, which really, when I hear this, then this can get very dangerous when you hear like some great stock tip or, such and such, Uncle such and such says, this is where you should be putting your money right now, right? Don't put it under the mattress while you're trying to figure out the best decision for this. I would certainly put it in a high yield savings account right now, just for it to earn a little bit of interest, know that it's in a safe place. And before you make any decisions with that money, I actually think it would be best to speak with a financial expert.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay. And that also leads me to this question, because I feel like this is a big stigma too. A lot of people, especially women, feel like, well, I don't need a financial advisor because I'm not really making that much money right now. Or, you know what I mean? Like they feel like you have to get to, I've heard this before. You feel like you have to get to a certain point, or like you have to have an excess of money before you start speaking with someone. Why is that not true?
It's not true because I think part of working with a financial expert is actually having somebody in your corner that's going to help guide you, right, to that place where you are actually going, whoa, like I am in overflow. My business is flourishing. There's money that I can put in investments. I'm deploying money to these important goals. Like we want to have somebody help you lay the foundation of kind of exercising your financial muscle, right? And building a plan, right? To help you get to where you want to go. And oftentimes without even having that conversation, it's very difficult to know what to do with your money if you don't know where you want to go, how long before you get there, and what does the money situation look like today? So for example, working with a financial expert today might actually help you find money in your current life that you didn't realize you were necessarily deploying to different things that maybe really aren't aligned with. And this is one of the things that I work with my clients, what their core values are in life, right? So it's not necessarily don't spend all your money, but maybe you're spending on stuff that really isn't bringing you joy or adding value to your life. And if we can kind of recalibrate where the money is going, you might find out that at the end of the month, there is extra to invest. But having someone there to kind of look at the overall picture with you and help guide you, right, can get you to that place a hell of a lot faster.
Yeah.
So I would say, yes, it's important to speak with a financial expert. The caveat is this. It's not always easy to find somebody who's willing to invest that amount of time in those initial conversations. And having worked on the other side of the desk, I will say this. The financial services industry today can be very confusing and very challenging to navigate. And there's a lot of great experts out there that won't talk to somebody unless you've got $500,000 or $1 million of investable assets. They won't give you the time of day, unfortunately, because how they make their compensation, right, is either in the sale of product or how much of your money they can gather to invest, because they make a percentage, on average off of that. So please take your time. Know that there are resources out there. You can start off by talking with a financial coach, right? There are advisors out there that would be willing to invest a lot of the front end time of helping you to kind of get to a point where you do have money to invest, but there are a lot that don't. So this is the reality of the space, and I'm just trying to be real here, but don't be discouraged, right? Continue to ask questions, and there are resources. There are wonderful coaching resources out there, right? Whether it's if you're an independent, there might be some great resources in terms of, I don't know if, as it relates to if there's any affiliations and organizations that you can be part of, business organizations, whether you're a photographer or creative, that may actually offer those resources, right? I don't know. But if there are, but just ask, see if they exist, right? I would say start subscribing to great newsletters. Just start spending some time, in addition to your morning meditation, 10, 15 minutes when you drink your coffee, to just read a little bit about what's going on in financial news. It may sound like a whole different language to you right now, but don't worry about it. Just bits and pieces, right? Bits and pieces, right? Well, that you're reading, that's digestible, and just give yourself grace that you're just learning, right? And then, you can talk to someone like me, right? Which is really, I'm focused on the education piece and the guidance and the mentorship. So, there are wonderful financial coaches out there that can kind of help you get to kind of that point where you're like, I'm ready to hire somebody because I want to be hands off, but I understand what's going on with my money. It's working for me. Oh, and by the way, the person that I'm hired and paying, I can actually have really good conversations with this person because I'm paying them to help me with my finances. And I know what questions to ask, and I understand what they're counseling me to do. That's really important also.
That's huge. Huge. And you have a newsletter as well that we'll link to for people because you've got so many great tips. So tell people before we wrap up, thank you so much for being here, by the way. This has been amazing. And tell people where they can find you.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I will definitely link to everything too, but in your own words, where do you like to connect with people best?
Well, I'm going to leave it to where people feel most comfortable, but you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook, right? Christine Joy Lux Sarno. Those are my handles. My website, www.christinejoyluxsarno.com. And if you're interested in being part of, and just the membership, by the way, is free to come into my free community, Financial Peace of Mind Coffee Chat. Okay. So I am doing everything I can to provide available resources and touch points to get you the support and the coaching that you deserve. So reach out, don't be afraid, and know that there's no such thing as a stupid question. Okay. I mean, these are all good talks. You have to feel good about the decision that you're making to reach out. And I promise you that's how you're going to be made to feel when we connect.
Love, 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 love. You guys, thank you so much for being here. This was such an amazing conversation and such a great way that I got to see you as well, because I see you online, but we haven't seen each other in person in a while. So it's always great seeing you.
Oh, Renee, it was such a pleasure and an honor. Thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me to share my love with your community. I appreciate you.
Wow, guys. I can't wait to hear your feedback on this episode. Definitely let me know what you think. Tag me on social. Give us a follow, obviously, and leave a review. You know I love those. And I'm going to keep giving away a free Audible to one person once a month who leaves us a review. So, side note, definitely go do that. But come on, Christine, how amazing is she, right? And you got to go find her in her community. You got to go show up and ask some questions. She's so empowering and so accepting and loving. And I know that she's going to be a great resource for you. So some of the takeaways that I think we can highlight from this episode are: don't wait to figure this out. It's never too early to start working with someone. The key is to find the right person, because not everyone is going to be open to that, but definitely start the process. Also, if you don't start with your own money stuff and your own hang-ups about your money stuff, you're not going to be able to put any strategies in place. So get that ironed out. Get to work on that. And lastly, there's room for you at this table. You don't have to have a bunch of money in the bank. You don't have to even know what you're talking about. There's no shame and no blame, and show up for yourself. It's definitely going to pay off in so many different ways. So thanks so much for being here. I love you guys. Have an awesome week. I'll see you next time.